Is everyone in, Dana, that we have right now? Okay. Well, good morning. It'll soon be afternoon. I'm Kurt Callio. I'm the president of the Ohio Watershed Professionals Association, otherwise known as OPA. OPA is a division of the Water Management Association of Ohio, otherwise known as WAMO. And WAMO hosts bi-monthly luncheon seminars. And this is a special luncheon seminar. WAMO will have one next month in August on the 18th, and that'll be hosted by the Ohio Stormwater Association. So every other month, there are these seminars, and one will be next month on the 18th, and then one in October. OPA will be back then. It'll be October 20th, I believe. In any case, we're delighted to welcome you to this special seminar and are pleased to have Kiki Schneider with us. She is the project manager for How's My Waterway website of the US EPA, and she is located in Washington, DC at the headquarters. One of the wonderful things about this virtual world is we can invite people to present to us from all over the country. And she's with the Department of Water at the US EPA in Washington. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kiki and let her go from there. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you, Kurt. So I'm in the Office of Water, and we're in the Water Data Integration Branch at headquarters at EPA, and there are two colleagues on today. And so as I go through this demo, we have a lot to show. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and Dwayne will be able to answer them and as we go along. And then at the end, we might have time for live questions. So that would be great if you could put those in the chat. So let me get that out of my way. I can see some things that are blocking my view. Okay, today I'm going to present How's My Waterway, which is an application, a second version of an application we released just over a year ago at EPA. And the first version of How's My Waterway, which some of you may be familiar with, was released in 2013. And it pulled water data from one database. And now 7 years later, in 2020, we released How's My Waterway #2 or version 2. And we're pulling data from about 12 different databases. So we are showing a comprehensive view of water quality with all the water data we have in one spot. So you'll see that in my demo after I go through this PowerPoint. So some of the goals of How's My Waterway when we first started thinking of this second version was we want to provide the public with usable, meaningful information that is user-friendly and easy to understand. And that was very important because if you're not a scientist or someone that knows a lot about water, you come to a lot of different applications out there, and some are hard to use or hard to understand. So we tried our best to make this for everybody. And we've had some middle schoolers do projects on it. And so that made us happy because we realized, oh, middle schoolers understand what we're saying. Another goal was to inspire others to take action to restore and protect their water. If you go into our app and put in your location, oftentimes you'll see that a lot of the water is impaired, and that will get you to want to do something about it. And that's happened a lot with me and my friends when we look at How's My Waterway. And then lastly, we want to communicate the progress the states, the tribes, and EPA are making towards restoring and protecting water in the US and in our territories. So this screen shows, oh, I got ahead of myself. So we're pulling data from several different sources, and this kind of shows you how it all comes in the How's My Waterway. We have water monitoring data from the Water Quality Portal. That's a USGS website. We have water assessment data and TMDL restoration plans. We have enforcement and compliance data from our ECHO database. We have grants data. We have watershed boundary data from our waters database. We have listings of fish and wildlife advisories. We have safe drinking water information from our safe drinking water database. We have healthy watersheds information. And of course, more data to come. And there's probably some that I missed on this slide that's already in there. Trying to fast forward. Okay. So as I said, we released the second version in June of 2020. We designed it to be responsively designed, which means it responds to all different screen sizes. So you could go here on your mobile phone, on your desktop, on your laptop. I'm on my tiny laptop now. And your iPad or your tablet, your Android tablet. So it should work on all screen sizes. It should size to whatever screen you're on. So you can see the little screenshot of the mobile phone, and that's what it looks like on the mobile phone. We are completely web service based, which means we pull in our data through APIs or web services. So we don't store any data. We just pull it from other databases in real time. So we don't have to update any of the data ourselves. Those databases, when they get updated, we get the most recent data from that database. And we're giving a comprehensive picture of water quality at your community, your local watershed level, across your entire state. And at a national, we give a national snapshot of water across the US. And so the How's My Waterway focuses on 4 of the most popular questions that we receive from the general public, which is swimming. Can I swim? How can I eat the fish? How's eating fish? How are the plants and animals? How's the aquatic life in the water? And most importantly, how's my drinking water? Are the most popular questions we've gotten from the public. So you'll see a lot of that in How's My Waterway. And to find How's My Waterway, all you have to do is Google it pretty much. And you'll cut to an EPA page where you can access it. Or you can go to mywaterway.epa.gov. So with that, I will start my live demo. If I can, there's a bunch of Zoom stuff in my way that I'm trying to click around. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up my website. So right now I'm at, I don't know if I can hide this meeting information or not, but you probably can't see it. I think I can just see it. It's blocking the upper part of my screen. So if you're at mywaterway.epa.gov, you'll come to this page, and we have to start a search box where you can enter an address, zip code, or place. You can enter places like Mount Rushmore. If you want, you can enter in your zip code, your home address, or you can use your location and it will try to pinpoint where you are. It's pretty accurate. It's usually a few blocks off. You can jump. Oh, and if you do this through the search box, you'll land on your local watershed. And you can also press the state button if you just want to see how water quality is doing across your state. And you can just go to national if you want to see water quality nationally. And then the most popular topics I mentioned earlier here at the bottom, if you just want to jump right in and explore. If you're just interested in swimming in an area, just press swimming and you'll just find out about those swimming assessments. So since we're in Ohio today, and I don't go to Ohio much, so this is exciting for me. I'm going to put in a zip code in Ohio that I found earlier near Toledo, 43609. And I click on that. And so right now we've pulled in all that data I was talking about from all those different databases that I mentioned. And you'll get to an overview page when you put in your zip code, and it's going to show your local watershed and the water assessments that were made by the state of Ohio in that watershed. So up here, we have the watershed name Delaware Creek, Maumee River, and then the HUC code, the 12-digit HUC code of the watershed, which is kind of a government-y term, which you might not know what that means. It's just a smaller watershed than the entire drainage area, and smaller than the whole watershed. So our data is cut up by these local watersheds. So that's why we're showing that one at a time. So when you come here, you'll get a little explanation of what you're looking at. You're looking at the watershed that we landed on. If you don't know what a watershed means, we have a lot of words defined in our application. And we found out it's very hard to explain watershed, even if you know what it means. And a lot of people don't know what a watershed is. So you can click on this word, and we have a glossary that pops up, and it tells you watershed is a land area that drains into a stream or other water body. So that's been very helpful as we've done educational outreach to have this glossary. And we also have about 100 terms in this glossary. You can search for terms, you can click on them as you go through the application. And another way to access the glossary is at the top of the page here, this link right here, and you just click on that and the whole glossary will come up. So you don't have to search for words to click on, you can just see it all at once. So on this overview page, we show a map of all the water bodies in that local area that Ohio has assessed. There are 5. And so Ohio is interesting. And usually we have a lot of lines on the map. So segments of rivers or streams or lakes or a whole lake would be assessed, but it looks like Ohio does things a little differently. I think they sum up their data by most of their data by the watershed. And if Dwayne's on the phone, I was gonna ask you, Dwayne's our branch chief, ask you to explain, if you could explain what Ohio does here, because it is a little different than other states. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so every state defines their assessment units a little bit differently. Ohio is no exception to that. And this is just different, not wrong, it's just different. So what Ohio does is that they perform an assessment at the HUC 12 level, which is kind of what you're seeing here. So the HUC level is the same level that of the watersheds that we show within House My Waterway. And then they also will do assessments for their big rivers. So you'll see that red line there in the middle. So that's one of their major rivers. So they'll do water quality assessments for the main rivers, and then also kind of general water quality assessments for the broader watershed. So that's what you're seeing here.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Yeah, I was, if you go to, if you go to in a lot of other states, you'll see more of these lines here where I just highlighted in blue. So in Ohio, you see more of the big polygons. So I just wanted him to explain that for me. Thank you. So when you come here, you can click on the map to see what's going on with that water. And this is the Maumee River mainstream. And you'll see the year that last reported was 2020. And the water body is impaired. And then if you scroll down, you can see what uses it is impaired for. So it has been assessed for drinking water for to become a possible future source of drinking water after treatment. So that's impaired. It's impaired for aquatic life. It's impaired for fish and shellfish consumption and recreation. And then the impairments that were found are listed below. And so all these words we're using, drinking water, aquatic life, fish consumption and recreation, and the impairment categories are uniform across all states and territories and tribes. We use the same words for consistency, but Ohio might have submitted other words, and you'll see that when I pull up another page here in a minute. But for consistency, we've grouped all the impairments into these categories. So bacteria and other microbes could have been E. coli, but we're calling it bacteria and other microbes. And for any of these impairments, you can click on them and get a definition in our glossary that pops out here on the right, and what you can do about it in your community. So in addition to the map, we also have a list, because I know some people don't like to explore maps or can't use maps. So we have a list of the waters as well, and they'll highlight on the map when you mouse over them. And you'll get the same information in this list as you do on the map, and bigger if you're on a small screen. So I don't know if you're familiar with Redfin, the house selling app, but they have a map and a list. So we kind of got that idea from them. Okay, and then in addition to the water bodies on the overview page, you have 185 water monitoring locations. And so this is water, you just turn it on, this little switch here, and all the little purple squares come up. And these are samples that were taken, and they could have been taken by volunteer organizations, students, people in your community, EPA, states, tribes. Anyone can submit this monitoring data to EPA, so we collect that through our water quality exchange, and then it shows up here in How's My Waterway. And if you're interested in submitting your data, just We can send you the directions if you want to ask in the chat. We can send you the email address to email and find out more about doing that. So in these water monitoring locations, you can click on one and you'll find out that the organization that put this monitoring, that took a sample here, was the EPA Great Lakes National Program. And then they took 8 samples, 921 measurements. And then this station has data on pesticides, metals, and physical. And then you can download the data right here. And this is the only place in House My Waterway you can download data, which is pretty cool. And we want to expand that capability. But right now we're only able to do the monitoring stations, but you can download it in Excel and CSV, and you can get that data in a spreadsheet and find out a lot more about what was monitored there. And I'll be talking about the monitoring stations a little more as I go through the app. I'm going to turn that off. We also have on the overview page, so this watershed has 8 permitted dischargers. So these are facilities that have a permit to discharge directly into the water here. So these are point source dischargers. We don't have stormwater permits here. It's just the facilities. So if you click on any of these, you can find out what facility it is. Usually I can tell what that is, but I don't know what that is. Pilking North America, Rossfort, PLT6. It will say if there's a violation, and there has been a violation identified, it looks like. If the permit status is effective, if there's been a significant violation in the past 3 years, or if there's been an inspection within 5 years, it says yes. And if there's been any formal enforcement action in the last 5 years, that says no. And so for a lot of these where we pull data in from all these different databases, you can go directly to the database to dig for more information. So if you click on facility report, that will take you to our enforcement and compliance database, and you can find out more about that inspection or violation or when it was that data was reported just by clicking on that link below. So that's the data you get when you come to the overview page. And as I mentioned before, we have rolled up a lot of the terms we use to be uniform across all states and territories. But for each of these water bodies, we have a water body report page. If you click this link right here, after you open it, this is going to bring you to a page like this. And each of these pages has a unique URL. So you could actually take the web address and email it to your friend or colleague that only want to know about this water, so they don't have to go into our app and search for it. You can email this water body report to anyone. And so the water body report is showing the exact words that Ohio has submitted to EPA instead of rolling them up into the uniform categories. So it will tell you the condition of the water body, if it has plans for restoration, if it's on the 303D list, which means it's impaired but needs a restoration plan, when it was reported last, what type of water is it? It's a river, and what the water is used for over on the right. And so you'll see these words might look a little different than the ones we had, like drinking water is water supply, public drinking. Fish consumption is human health, fish consumption. So those are the terms Ohio has used before we changed them to match all the other states. So if you open some of these, you'll see that the impairments we have here, we have nutrient, sediment, habitat alterations, flow regime modification. So those are the impairments that were submitted that we have rolled up into those other categories. And so you can see exactly what was submitted here. And so we have PCBs in fish tissue, and this one, which would just be PCBs in House My Waterway. And then you can just open these and see all what's going on there. So a lot of the states say, oh, well, what did we submit for that, for bacteria and other microbes? I'd like to know. So you can find out by going to the water body report page. And then we'll tell you if there's any plans to protect water quality for the water. And there's a little map of the water body there. Okay, I'm going to go back. Where, didn't I lose my location? Let me put in the zip code again. Okay, so before I go through the rest of the community level, we have a lot of tabs up here at the top. I'm going to show you the map. There's a lot you can do with the map in How's My Waterway. So the first thing is, since we're showing that local watershed I was talking about, the HUC 12, it's not the entire drainage area. So we have a button right here on the map called View Upstream Watershed. And if you press it, this is going to zoom out and show you the entire upstream, entire drainage area that goes down to that local watershed there. And this is great because you can click anywhere on here and change your location. So if you want to know what's going on further down in this upstream watershed, you can click yes, and then it will show you the assessments there and which waters are impaired or good. And I guess I should have mentioned the impaired waters are red and the good ones are green, which the good means that none of the uses were impaired. And if it's impaired, that means at least one of the uses was impaired. But I didn't see any green water in this watershed, so I forgot to mention that. And of course, purple would be condition unknown, which means it was identified for an assessment, but there wasn't enough data or it just wasn't assessed. So another thing you can do here is you can turn on the outlines of other, in this layer list here I just popped out on the right, you can turn on the outlines of other small watersheds, which is not there right now. It disappeared. So I'll come back to that. Let me turn off the upstream watershed. So since I'm on a small screen, I'm gonna make the map bigger. So if you're on a small screen and you just want a full screen map, you can click on this where I'm mousing over on the bottom right. It says enter full screen, and your map is just gonna go full screen. So that's much better for me. You can see everything. And I'm going to go back to the layers and see if I can turn on that watershed layer. And it does show up. I think I found a little bug in the app because you're supposed to be able to turn that on. So if you see, I open the layer list and I'll click on watershed. So this is going to start outlining everything. So all these in purple, all these purple outlines are all the small watersheds around us. And you can click on any of those and it will ask you if you want to update to that one. And it's kind of nice to have that because you can see the street names. I changed the base map, I think, here to topographic, or we also have a streets one. And then you can see street names. So if you find somewhere you want to click that you meant to go on that map, you can do that. You don't have to have the watershed layer on to do that, but it does help when you see the outlines. So now that I'm in full screen, I'm going to show you all the other layers we have in How's My Waterway. So open the layer list. We do have at the top about 7 different maps, base maps you can choose from. You can do light gray canvas. It's kind of boring, but it helps you see some of the lines I'm going to put on right now. We have imagery. You can see imagery, which is pretty cool. Terrain, topographic, and we have dark gray canvas as well. And then I already showed the street map, but I'm going to go back to light gray. So you can turn on any of those layers you saw on the smaller screen here. So you can turn on the dischargers and click around on the bigger screen. You can turn on the monitoring stations, and there seems to be a ton here. I think there's like 700. So you could zoom in and see those a little better on the big screen. I showed the watersheds. You can see you can turn on the county outlines layer. Let me zoom out to see that. And so oftentimes watersheds cross county lines and people want to know which county they're in. And so you can click on the county and it will tell you this is Lucas County here. We have a congressional districts layer. So you can see who's representing where these waters are. And if you, it looks like it crosses a few lines there. So we have Marcy Captor is one of the representatives, and then we have Robert Latta in that area where those water bodies are. We have a state boundary you can turn on. It looks like we're close to Michigan there. So that black line. And we also have this button. I'm gonna zoom back in here. We also have this button called Mapped Water All. So when you turn this on, This will show you all the water that's been mapped by the USGS and EPA from our national hydrography data set. And so you can see actually the stream lines there, and so where the water bodies are. And so in this area, if you see a water that hasn't been assessed, you might want to get involved in your local community or watershed group to get sampling done on that water, or collect some of that data on those water bodies that we don't have data for. So that's a good way of seeing the waters that we don't have data for, and they'll be in green or blue here. And you can see the waters under the big polygons there that exist as well. Okay, there's a couple more layers here. We have a tribal areas layer. So if you turn this on, it's going to show any tribal lands that EPA has mapped in the US. And there's none in this immediate area, but if I zoom out a little, I think I found one earlier. The tribal lands are going to show up in dark gray polygons. So I found one here. You click on it and you can see that is the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe of Michigan right there. And you can always go to that location and explore to see if they have water data there. And then the last layer, we just added recently, we're very excited about, EPA is doing a lot of work on environmental justice now, and we have an application called EJ Screen where you can screen an area for demographic indicators or other kind of environmental justice indicators. So we've added a service from that application. If you turn this on, it's going to bring in the data from our environmental justice screening tool. There we go. And show you different demographic indicators. So right now I have on the demographic index, which is the average of the percent low income and the percent people of color. And if you click on the map, it's going to show you the percentages of all of these indicators here, and then in comparison to the national percentile. So in the area, all you can see the percent minority, low income, less than high school education, linguistically isolated, percent individuals under 5, or percent over 64. And then we have a legend down here on the left on the map, which I showed earlier. And that will show you what you're looking at. So the darker areas are more concentrated of those populations, and the lighter ones are less. So you can see the percentages over here. We've also defined all these terms in the glossary. You can click on and it will pop out there. So if I turn off the demographic index and I just pick something like low income, it will update for that. And you can see there how these things change, or individuals over age 64. So you can see how these underserved communities exist around your water in that area. So that's our demographic indicators, and then it's at the bottom of the layer list because it's an ordering thing. It had to be at the bottom around so it would cover everything else. So those are the layers. One more thing that we've added to the map, in this plus sign right here, it's an add data widget. And so if you click on it, this little add data thingy pops up. So this is a way you can search through all the public data sets in ArcGIS Online, and you can add them to the map here. But we don't own most of these data sets, so we have a disclaimer that says we're not responsible for what we're showing there. But this is a good way of just adding it over what you're looking at. So on the add data button, I have some suggested content, and I also have a way to search thousands of data sets. So in our suggested content, and we have like 10 data sets we thought would be useful for people to overlay. So the first one is, I'm not going to show all 10 right now, but the first one is US flood hazard areas. And then this is a FEMA data set. And I turn this on, it's going to show you, it's going to come up in purple here. It's going to show you those areas that are at risk for flooding. And if I turn on the legend, the dark purple, it has the most chance, 1% annual flood hazard, and then the lighter areas are reduced risk. And if you click on those areas, it will tell you this is a 100-year floodplain. And then the date of publication was April 21st, 2020. And so you can click around any, this one looks like it's less of a hazard, or just on that little area right there. Oh, due to levee, interesting. Always finding something new. So then you have to remember to remove it once you turn it on, or else it's going to stay on the map as long as you're on How's My Waterway. And if you come back to it, it will still be there, which happened to me earlier today. So we even have air monitoring locations in here you can add on if you want, and land cover information too. So if you move from suggested content here to ArcGIS Online, well, this is the way you search for, you can search for anything. You can put in anything here. You can put parks, land, smoke, which I like to put in because we've had a lot of fires recently. Just put in any word that you're interested in that data set and press go. And then I put in smoke, and I found the National Weather Service smoke forecast, so I'm adding it. And I think this one is pretty interesting. So that came up pretty quickly in the legend to tell us there's a higher concentration of the darker areas of smoke hazard, and click on it and I'll tell you the smoke forecast. So it's pretty recent. I think today is the 21st. And so this was yesterday. 4 a.m. smoke concentration levels expected to be 158 to 1,000 micrograms. And then it tells you that's unhealthy for sensitive people. So that's I love that data set. It's pretty cool. And so you can do, you know, you can have a lot of fun with this add data button. I could be on here forever, but I will move on. One more thing, you can also add a web service URL and add it to the map, or a file if you have data, and if you know how to do that, and add it to the map as well from the computer. Okay, so those are all the things you can do with the map. So I'll go back to my small screen, and I will tell you what else we have in here. So the next tab is swimming. And so when I click on this, this is just going to show what was assessed for swimming. And so if you're just interested in swimming, you can come here and see. And sometimes the map will change. If a water body has been assessed good for something, it might turn green. And then you'll get the information in the swimming, the same information you got before, but with the swimming impairment categories. We have bacteria, degraded habitat, and sediment there. The next tab is eating fish. So this did update. Most of it's condition unknown. The map did update. So it looks like that mainstream river there is impaired for eating fish. You go down here, and there's a lot of impairments that were identified there in the Maumee River. Also, we know that we don't have the most recent fish advisory data. So what we've done is we've linked on this page. If you click on the state here, you'll go to their fish advisories website. And so we know the states have more recent fish advisory data. So we've linked to all those, every state's fish advisory website, so you can access that easier there. And if a watershed crossed state lines, then we'll have 2 states listed. So the next tab is aquatic life. So how are those fish, plants, and animals doing in the water? We still have, most of it's impaired for something. And then you can see those impairments down here for those waters for aquatic life. Okay, so now I'm going to switch gears a little and go to the drinking water tab. Press drinking water. And this data is from our safe drinking water database, and it's we have 3 questions. So the first one is, who provides the drinking water here? And we're showing the county outline of the county. So we're going to show the systems that provide drinking water in this county, because that is how our data has been submitted by county. And so we have a lot of language around drinking water. It's very important. So if you scroll down, you can get all the public water systems serving Lucas County. So those are the public water systems that are providing drinking water in that county. And so we've listed the largest system first by population served. So it's 480,000. And then if it's surface water or groundwater, And it looks like there's a few here, and there's some groundwater ones at the bottom there, and it gets a little smaller and serving 100 people, and then all the way up to the largest one. But for each of these systems, you'll get the same information. If you click on it, you'll get if it's active, the population served, it's a community water system. Drinking water health-based violation, no, that's good. That could be any time within the past 40 years plus. So when I see no, I take that to be a good sign. It's coming from surface water. And then if you want more details, you can click on the more details button and you'll go to our safe drinking water information system. And then that's a way you can actually go in there and dig around and find if it does have a health violation, why and when and what for. You can find out about the drinking water intakes from that system and stuff like that, which I was searching around Washington, D.C. and I found my drinking water intake in the Potomac River in Maryland. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. So since there's a lot of text on this page, you can always turn off the show text button if you just want to see the data after you've read it, of course. So then you just have the data here. So you're not cluttering your small screen if you're on a laptop. So the second question is who withdraws water for drinking here, and that we don't have any systems listed here. So I'll just show the text. So these would be systems that withdraw drinking water, and now we're back to the watershed outline in this watershed. So if they withdraw water for drinking from this watershed and transport it to a different location, they would be listed here, and then you would get the same information you got from the providers tab and a link to our safe drinking water database. And then finally, the last tab on the drinking water page is which waters have been assessed for drinking water use. So this is going to be the same as we were looking at for the aquatic life, fishing, swimming, and I forgot, eating fish. And so there looks like there was one water that was assessed for drinking water use, which means that it was raw water pre-treatment. So we have language in here that explains that don't go out and drink it. It needs to be treated. So if it was assessed good, it might have become a future source of drinking water someday in the future. And then you'll be able to see the impairments that prevented it from being assessed good down here. And of course, you can click on any of those and learn more. And for any of these, you can still click on the water body report page and go to that water body report page I showed earlier and find out more about those impairments. Okay, so the next tab is monitoring. And I showed the monitoring stations earlier in the overview page, but this page has a little more information. So this is a way, since there's over 700, oh wait, not 7, why am I keep saying 700? Oh, I was on a watershed earlier that had 700. There's 185 stations here. Okay, I'll zoom in a little. So the 700 would look like a lot more. So this is a way of kind of filtering out what you want to see here. So you can see all the monitoring stations. You can turn these off. And if you're just interested in where the metals are, where metals data is, you can click on those. And it looks like most of them have metals data. So 180 of 185 have metals data. You can click on several of them at once. So if I click on bacterial, it doesn't look like a lot. So we're displaying 15 that have bacterial, and then you can turn on sediments too, and those will come up. You can turn on as many as you want at a time, depending on how much you're interested in. And then you'll get a list of all of them here, and you can click on the list and see it a little bigger on your screen, and also download that data that I showed earlier on the map, so you can see it a little better. You can pick what you want to download. If you just want metals there, you can do that. You can click them all. And so we're adding to this page really soon. We're going to put in the USGS stream gauges here that show current conditions of the waters, and we're going to have that in a couple of months. So we're excited about that because this data could be pretty old. So we're excited to get some more current data in here on the monitoring page. Okay, so you've seen all the assessments and you've seen all the data that's been monitored. So the next page is identified issues. And so this is going to show you a picture of the watershed all at one time. Instead of having to click each water body to find out the impairments. It says 100% of the assessed waters are impaired. And you can see all the impairments listed here. There's a lot of them. And this is a way you can filter through here if you just want to know where certain impairments are. Like if I turn on metals, there's metals there. And then mercury is there. And then some might be everywhere. Let's see if I turn on bacteria, a lot of them come up. Most of the waters come up there. So you can sift through that impairment categories that way. And then if there's a discharger that has a significant effluent violation, it will show up on this tab. And I don't have one here, but I found a watershed where I can show one. I'm going to click on that tab in a second, but I'm having trouble accessing the tabs at the top because I have the zoom bar, and let me hold on. Let's make it smaller. And then the page. Okay. All right. So, okay. And I found an area very close to where I just was that had a discharger with a significant violation, and you'll see it on the map right here. And you can find out what that is by clicking this tab. So that's Hoffman Road Sanitary Landfill. That's, don't want to know what they're discharging. So this has a significant violation, and you can also click on it on the map, get the same information. And what I like to do when I find one of these is go to the facility report. If you click on that, we can click on that in the pop-up or the list that I was in. And this is our ECHO database, Enforcement and Compliance History Online. And this, now we can find out what that significant violation was for. It's not obvious at first, but I keep scrolling down, and all this data gets updated every quarter. So you'll see here in 12/31/20, there was a violation, and then 3/31/21 high priority violation. And then more recently, 4/1 to 6/30 high priority violation. And then down here, you'll see the significant category non-compliance here back in March from 1/1 to 3/31, and effluent monthly average limit has been exceeded. And if you keep going down, you'll see this big exceedance of 303%, which is pretty high, of total solids, total suspended solids there for that facility. And then when the violation is lifted, this will show up. This won't show up anymore as a significant violator, but you can see what's been going on here. So mostly it's total suspended solids. Okay. So that is the identified issues page. So you've seen all the problems that we've had in and around these watersheds. So you might want to wondering what's being done to restore the water. So if you click on the restore tab, you come to this page, the restore page, and we have clean water section 319 projects that have been going, that are taking place or have taken place in this watershed. These are non-point source pollution grants that have been allocated to this watershed. And if you click on them, so watershed plan update of Maumee area of concern, the total funds that were spent, the project start date in 2016, project status has been completed. You can open this project summary to go to that database and do a deeper dive into what was going on there. And then also, if any documents were submitted, that's the first time I found documents for one of these plans. So there's 3 documents here you can access that have to do with that grant there. And then the next tab is restoration plans. I need to open another tab to show you an area that had a restoration plan. Hold on. Okay. I'm on a different watershed that's still close by to where I was. So, so this one has, I click on the restoration tab, 1 restoration plan. So most of these are TMDLs, and we're not showing the waters on this map yet, but we're working towards being able to do that very soon. So I'm excited about that. And oftentimes you'll go to areas that have like 20 restoration plans. So this is Swan Creek Watershed Plan. And if you click it, you'll see it's a TMDL. The status is EPA final action. It was completed in 2010. And then for each of the restoration plans, we have a plan summary page. And I think I have one open right here. So when you open that plan summary page, you'll get a unique page for each restoration plan. And you can just send this to someone that's interested in that plan. And they'll have all the information right there without having to go through the application. So this gives information on the TMDL, the associated documents that were submitted with it, you can download, the impairments that were addressed, and then the waters covered. And if you open the waters that were covered in the plan, you'll see the parameters or impairments that were addressed, and then a link to that water body report page. And you can see on the map those water bodies there that were in the restoration plan. Okay, moving on. So you've seen the restoring. So the next page is protect. Because how do I protect my water, or what's being protected? Click on the protect tab. And on this page, we have tips on how to protect your watershed in your school, community, home, or yard. And then we've just recently added this watershed health and protection tab that has more information about the watershed you're in and protection. So if the first layer is watershed health scores, and if you turn that on, the map will change. And this is going to show how healthy the watershed you landed in is in comparison to other watersheds in the state. So it's just comparing it to it in the same state, not other states. So I'm going to zoom out a little. So the darker the watershed, the healthier it is. So the darker ones up here, you can see they are more healthy than the lighter ones. So this one has a score of 0.39. If you click it on the map, you can see that. So this watershed that we're in, 0.39, and you have the information over here. And so if it's below 0.5, that's less healthy than average. And you can also go by color. The blue is a little lighter. So then you can compare this watershed to other sheds around it. And you can do that state by state. Zoom back in, turn this off. Okay, our next layer here is wild and scenic rivers. And so when we turn that on, I'm going to open up a different tab to show you. Because I found one somewhere else. So if you turn this on, it's going to show any rivers that are protected by the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. And so I'm somewhere near Columbus now. And how's my waterway? And we have a wild and scenic river here. So it will tell you what agency manages it, if there's a plan, the public law name, the river category, it's state administered, and then we have a link to the rivers.gov website. And so a cool thing you can do with the wild and scenic rivers that you can't do anywhere else is click on it and see a picture of it. So there you go. There is the Big and Little Darby Creeks. And there's a nice picture of it in the winter, it looks like. And then you can get the more information down there. So you can do that with any of these rivers, click on them. And if you zoom out a little, you can always, I seem to always find more when I zoom out and pan around the map. It's kind of fun opening these up and looking at the other wild and scenic rivers are out there. Also, sometimes the wild and scenic rivers have been assessed by the state. You can find out what impairments are there in there as well by clicking on there. So that's another thing you can do with those. Okay, moving on. The next layer on this page is protected areas. I'm going to change the base map a little and make it lighter to look at these. And so if you turn on protected areas, this is going to show all the areas in the US that are protected. So we have a list here of all the protected areas in the map extent. You can also zoom out and see more. You can click on them and find out what they are, if they're city land, local government manages it, and this is open access. You can also click on them in the map. This takes a little bit longer. I believe the forest, no, USGS owns this. service that we're pulling in. So sometimes it takes a little longer to come up. So it will give you information. Normally, it might be a little slow right now. We also have a legend, so you can see what category it is. If it's a marine area or an easement. There's a fee. I found one where I used to live in my parents' backyard that was protected. When I was showing Virginia yesterday, I was very excited. So yeah, here's one that just came up. So this will show you information on that protected area, and you can also go to that watershed and change that location if you want. So that's coming from the Protected Areas Database of the US. And then the last thing on our community page of How's My Waterway is if there's a protection project, it will show up here, but there isn't one in this watershed. And I also have to remember to turn off these layers. So that's the community page, and that is the most data we have on here, but I'm going to go to the state page now, and then if we have time, the national page to show you everything that's in here. But before I go there, I already showed you the glossary at the top where you can search through all our terms and learn more. We also have a data page, and so this tells you where we're pulling all the data from, who owns the data, whether it's EPA or the Forest Service or USGS, and where it shows up in our application. So you can, if you want to find out more about where the data is coming from and where it is in How's My Waterway, you can click the data page. We have an about page that answers some questions and some questions and answers about How's My Waterway and some other information there. And then also a contact us form. If you want to contact us, the email will go right to me and I can answer your questions after this demo if you think of something. Okay, so moving on to the state page. So you've seen all our water quality data cut up by local watersheds. So if we go to the state, comprehensive picture of how the water was doing in your state in the last cycle that was submitted. So you can click on any state or territory, and we're planning to have tribes in here soon as well. Of course, I'm going to go to Ohio. Let's go. So when you land on this page, it starts by 3 little metrics here that highlights what the waters in Ohio. So we have a little more than 1,200 large rivers and some more information there. And then a paragraph about Ohio's water protection program. And then each state submitted their own information for these two. And then below it, we have the state's integrated report online. So this is what the states submit to EPA every 2 years. And so we have it all in one spot here. You can click through and see a visual of it. And then we also have some documents you can download. So if you click on State Water Quality Overview tab, which I'm on, and pick a topic. So we have swimming highlighted, and then you can pick a water type. So this has already been chosen, Great Lakes, and then recreation bathing waters. That is exactly what Ohio has submitted. It was recreation bathing waters. And then you can see the chart here and shows how many square miles that were assessed are good for, or I'm assuming that means swimming, swimming, and then how many were impaired. And then the top reasons for impairments for swimming across the state, and you'll see 100% contain algae. Interesting. I haven't seen 100% lately. And then 4% contain bacteria and other microbes in the square mileage of those. And so then you can do different combinations here if you want to know about the rivers and streams. And this is how the integrated report is laid out by these different categories, rivers and streams and stuff like that. So you'll see the chart update, and then if there's any other use you can pick, there's not right there. And for aquatic life, it will show, click on watershed. And then, wow, oh, there's a lot of different aquatic life. So you can do warm water habitat, and the chart will change. Cold water habitat, a lot of different uses you can select there. Of course, in the community level, they were all rolled up to just aquatic life, but in here we show all of them. And then we have a drinking water tab for the drinking water assessments. So this is the raw water pre-treatment. So in the Great Lakes, I'm going to click Great Lakes and it will show you all of it's impaired. And then you can click back to rivers and streams and it will show the chart will change. We also have, since I have time, I'll show that. I don't usually show this, I realize, because these demo, I have so much information to show. So since I have time, we also have other drinking water information for each state. So we have there's 3 different types of public water systems, which I did not know a few years ago. So community water system and these non-transient non-community water systems and transient non-community water system. And we define them and then the percentages of them in Ohio. So I feel like most of the ones I see are community waters, just community water systems. And so if you look at this chart, you'll see that then the blue, there's 1,100 some, but look, there's actually more of the transient non-community water system. So that's interesting to know. Water system that provides water in place such as a gas station or campground where people do not remain for long periods of time. So that is the most popular water system in Ohio. And then we have these little metrics down here when these get updated every quarter. And this is information about all the public water systems across Ohio. So there's been in Q2 of 2021, there's been 48 violations, 26 systems in violation, 90 some thousand population served in violation. Total systems are, oh, these are just for community water systems, not for all of them. Okay. I just read that. The total community, just community, not the transient, non-transient ones, a little more than 1,100, 10 million population served, and then 98% of those are in compliance and 99% are in compliance. And then below this information, we have a documents tab. If you open this, these are all the documents submitted with the integrated report, so you can download them and read them if you want. And if the state did a statistical survey of their waters, we'd have documents on those. And the next tab is Ohio water stories. So these are non-point source pollution success stories. These are fun to read. Each state has them. If you click on it, you'll get a little PDF of the story and what was done there in Ohio. Back, whoops. Back to Ohio. And then we have one more tab on this page, more information for Ohio. So each state has provided us with links that they thought were important for the public to access. And I am so impressed with Ohio because I've never seen this many, and they're all labeled really nicely. So there's links to their integrated report, their drinking water homepage, surface water, groundwaters, and non-point source program. So you can access all different sites there. So that's great. So that is the integrated report page. And then the state page has one more tab called advanced search. And so we designed this for people that were requesting information like, I want to see all the 303D listed waters at once in the state. I don't want to go watershed by watershed, or I just want to see what has TMDL. So this is called advanced search because you have to know a little more about what you're looking for. But you can come here and just press search. And you'll see that it comes up with around 1,500 results. This shows all the waters assessments at once in Ohio. So you can see it all at once instead of watershed by watershed. You can do this for each state. And you can also get a list. So if I click to list, this is going to list all those assessments in one spot. And it will tell you if the waters are listed, if it has a TMDL, and then all the uses and impairments too. You can also click on the map, but it might be a little tricky because everything's blended together and get those to pop up as well. So you can filter this down. If you just want to know where the TMDLs are, I just click that. You can press search, 655 TMDLs, looks like, in Ohio. And those all come up, and you also get the waters with in the waters that have a TMDL, 655 waters that have a TMDL. There might be actually more TMDLs than that. And then you see where the TMDLs are. And then you can also filter by, if you just want to know where the fish consumption assessments were, or the any of these impairments. We just want to know where low oxygen is. Maybe we'll try that one. I haven't tried it, so let's see. Search for that. And the map will change depending on what you're searching for. Low oxygen, and so you'll see there on the map. And then you can look at the list as well, or the map. You can also search by water body names. You can click several. You can click several watersheds if you want to do like 10 different watersheds instead of the whole state. And so you can have a lot of fun with this. You can do a lot of different combinations and see a lot of different things. I'll just do one more for fun. I'm trying to recall what I saw earlier. I'm just interested what has been assessed for drinking water, because there weren't many. And I don't think I could find many in How's My Waterway. So there you go. There you go. There we are. So not as many, and then you can click and get a list of those. So that's a way of looking at the whole state at once on the advanced search tab. So that's the state page. And one more thing, actually two more things. Before I go to national, I'm going to click on the data page once again, because I think this is interesting and I forgot to show this. So I mentioned that we rolled up all the impairments into uniform categories to be uniform across all states to make it easier for the general public. So we have this little tool here. It's called Impairment Category Filtering Tool. So you can come here. Hopefully it works, because I have not been here in a while. And so if you saw a word in How's My Waterway, like, what's a good one? Metals. You saw something was impaired for metals and put that in. So this will show what How's My Waterway says. We say metals. Our database says is a different group, metals other than mercury. And then what was submitted for metals through all 50 states and territories and tribes could have been any of these words. So we've combined all these words into the word metals. So there's a lot: copper and fish tissue, chromium, zinc, all sorts of stuff. So this is a way of just being able to see what was submitted from our database. I put in bacteria. It could be bacteria or total coliform, pathogens, bacterial slimes, viruses, stuff like that. So you can go there and find out more about what was rolled up into that one word that we show. Okay, the national page is the last page in here for now. So you can explore water quality nationally. We talk about nutrients and waterways and how they're a big issue, what EPA is doing about it. And then you can click by water type, rivers and streams, and find out how rivers and streams have been doing across the US. And for lakes as well, coasts, and wetlands. And you click in here and find out more about those water types. And that's coming from our NARS surveys, the National Aquatic Resource Surveys. I think I got that right. And then you can go to their webpage down here at the bottom. On the national page, we also have National Drinking Water tab. This gives information about our National Drinking Water Program, the basics of it, how to know if your water is safe, where to get a consumer confidence report. Unfortunately, we can't pull in that data to How's My Water at this time, but we've had a lot of requests for that. And then we have the water systems metrics that I showed for the state. We have it for the whole US for community water systems. And so you'll see there's more than 8,000 violations in the US. Population served in violation is over 23 million, over 49,000 community water systems for drinking water. Total population served is over 314 million. And then we have a lot of systems that are in compliance, so 94%. So that's good. So that is our drinking water tab. In the future, we plan to add a state revolving fund water infrastructure loans to House My Waterway at the national and state and community levels. So we're going to have that soon. Then I mentioned the USGS stream gauge data and more tribal data. So those are the things that are coming. And with that, we can stop. I'm sure there's been a lot of questions in the chat, or we can answer some live as well. So thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned a lot. And I'll check the chat, see if there's any other questions. It looks like Dwayne's been answering them. Does anyone have any other questions besides the chat?
I think we'll let people just unmute and ask them themselves for now. If that proves unmanageable, we'll try another method.
Okay. And you can always press contact us and fill out the form, or you can just email mywaterway@epa.gov to ask any questions you might have that you didn't get to in this demo, and I'll be happy to answer those as well. I'll put the email in the chat. Thank you. I hope you do share it with people. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to mention, if any of you have kids in middle school or are educators or know educators, we do have a middle school lesson plan, and I can send it to Kurt or someone if they want to, if anyone wants it, he can send it to you, or you can email me and I can send it to you. It shows how to do stuff in House My Waterway and gives a lot of information, how students can learn about their water and their watershed.
Really appreciate all the information. It's quite remarkable what all you've pulled together at this site and all the things you can explore. It's really helpful because normally when I've done this sort of research, I've gone to all sorts of different documents and I had to find this document there.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I meant to mention that's one of the things I meant to mention in the beginning. Yeah, in the past, you'd have to go to several different websites and download several different things. And now you can come here. So I'm glad you said that. And if you have any suggestions about stuff we should add or to improve, we'd like to hear those too. So feel free to contact us and suggest stuff.
Kind of exciting to hear that people can upload, not directly, it sounds like they upload through you if they want to put some things on the website in terms of their true or.
Oh, so yeah, you can add your data with the, oh, you mean, yes, for the monitoring page. That's a good question. We get a lot of requests. So our monitoring page, all this data is coming from our water quality exchange. And so people that submit it could be universities or volunteers or anyone really. So you just have to follow our database schema, and there's some training we have on it. And if you take samples and have the data, and you can upload it to our database, our WQX database, and it will show up in House My Waterway once EPA has refreshed the data and you followed the correct way of doing it. We plan to have another training webinar on just that in the future and how to do that. But for now, I'm trying to find the chat again, it disappeared. I was going to put this in the chat. If you're interested in submitting your data that you have, which would be great for those streams and rivers that have not been assessed, you can email wqx@epa.gov and they can get you started on how to do that. And I think that team also periodically does trainings for groups that are interested as well. So you can also email that email and inquire about that if you want.
That's quite a remarkable data set from what I've heard about it. There's an incredible amount of data, historical and otherwise, in there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a ton. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned historical, because this data could be 40 some years old. We hope to have a date slider in the future where you can just slide it to get more recent data or old data. And then we're adding the USGS current condition stream gauges here to get more up-to-date data as well.
Should also say it's kind of nice that the way you've laid it out has a lot in common with how Ohio has laid out a similar map for Ohio, that if you want to look at specific Ohio data, it's got similar kinds of blocks. You click on it, little window clicks up, looks very much like yours. So I don't know if there was an effort to actually do that, but it's nice that it corresponds well from my point of view. And so the interface looks very similar, which is, I think, helpful.
Oh, good. I'll have to find that. Also, the data we have, anyone can use these web services to pull in data. If you have an application, you want to pull some of this data into it, we can help you find this data if anyone wants to use it in their own application as well. It's all public.
Are the ArcGIS resources you referenced, are those public access, or do you have to have a subscription to
yeah, those are public. So the add data button only shows public data sets. You can only only public data sets. Yeah, you don't have to log in to add any of these on here. We do want also work on something, a widget that allows people to import everything into their own ArcGIS program on their desktop and play with it that way too. So we have plans for that in the future too. So you could actually download it and save it instead of just doing it while you're on this web page. And then you could log in that way and add stuff that wasn't public for your own personal use. So yeah, we have a lot of plans coming up soon, so we're excited.
You've done a lot already. It's really...
Thank you.
It's interesting, if nothing else, to see what information the states provide to you, since the frequency of how they do that or exactly what it is would take a little work on our end. From my point of view, as someone who's not part of the Ohio EPA, it'd take me a little work to figure out, oh, okay, that's what they submit, or this is the kind of stuff they put in, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of to have that.
Yeah, this is all about data transparency here. Yeah, we have whatever we're showing is what we have, which can be kind of scary sometimes, but it's very useful to know what's going on. Like, this is my watershed. It's pretty impaired. But yeah, no, I've learned a lot, and I know people like to take this. I'm going to the beach on this week for vacation. I'll take it and I'll look while we're there on my phone and find out what's going on with that water there in North Carolina. So it's fun to just be out there and be able to do it on your phone wherever you are. Find out.
How close to live is that information for something like that?
How close to what? Sorry.
In real time.
Oh, yeah, we don't have really real time. So the most recent data would have been submitted in the 2020 cycle.
Okay.
So it could be a couple of years. If it says 2020, it could be a couple of years old. Yeah. But some states are a little behind. You might see 2016 for some states. So we have that here so people will know when it was last reported to us.
Well, I'm not hearing any other questions. Really appreciate all your time and all the information you've provided.
Sure.
Dana,
I'm happy to do it.
Should we just call it at this point, or what do you think?
Yeah, if there's no further questions, we can go ahead and conclude.
Okay. Thank you so very much, everybody, for participating, and Kiki for all the information you've provided, and Dwayne for doing the chat work. It's all been really, really helpful from my point of view. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and just let us know if you have questions after this. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.